Hi guys, welcome back to Suzuki. Today we're going to be showing you some of the new parts that we got. We're going to be doing a 4-link and suspension, so I'm going to lay out all the parts so you can see them.
Would you just look at it?
Just look at it. It's so cute.
Alright, so we just wanted to inventory what we got. We bought a max speeding rods, 4-link, and some coilovers from the front. If they work, I'll tell you at the end of the video what they came from, and I'll put a part in the description. If they don't work, this will be a very quick montage of us failing and then ordering something else to try. But we're gonna probably start coilovers tomorrow.
Yeah.
So do the front, probably take the wheels off the back, lower the truck to the height we want, and do the coils in the front so we can get an idea of how it's gonna sit. And then the truck bed's coming off tomorrow.
Oh hell no.
If we have enough time.
I'm not ready.
You're not ready? So we got Cars and Coffee, Raleigh tomorrow. Cars and Coffee in Raleigh, and then as soon as we get home, heater's coming on, and we're gonna do coils on the front. Are you ready?
Yep.
Let's do it. Alright, so this is going to be the pain in the buttest part of this. Is going to be passenger side, dealing with this crap. One, this frickin' tubing is in the way. Let's take our cool flashlight out. Flasher. You guys see these yet? This thing's frickin' nuts, man. Wait, hold on. Instead of having a flare, it's a LED flare. And so we're going to take these two bolt nuts off and then figure out how we're going to mount the other strut. We may have to drill a hole in the strut itself or whatever. It just depends on how that camber thing lines up. So let's get this out. All right, so we got it in once. I am gonna pull this back out and show you what we did, but we basically modified the top hat, and I also had to shave just less than 0.5 millimeter off of the knuckle. I just took a little bit off of both sides. For that reason, I don't know that I would recommend this, but if it's something that you want to do, I mean, more power to you. I'll put the part number in the description below, but basically it's just veloster coilovers. Something else we're gonna have to do is I'm gonna replace the camber bolts on the top with something that has a flatter head. That way I don't have to cut the truck, because that hole that the original shock sat in, the camber bolt just hits the edges of it. The other option would be to modify the top hat even more so that it fits, but what I did was I used one original bolt hole and I made a more original bolt hole. I took the third one off, but you'll see in a second.
It's cold out here, though.
Yeah, it is not warm. And we're gonna just, another thing we're gonna do is swap sides. So the left's gonna go on the right's gonna go on the left. And that's because of this bracket here. This bracket, I want to modify it so I can use the original C-clip for the brake line. That way it'll be a little more, not OEM, but just protected. I don't really care about OEM or aftermarket, obviously. But these would work with some work. I would just, you know, just be prepared for a little bit more work than what you would normally think. And you can see on the knuckle here where maybe you can't see, I'm not sure, but I just ground off less than 0.5 mil. You know, I used my mics and figured out how much it was. Something else you could do, if you didn't want to modify this knuckle, you could shave that off of here. Basically almost just taking off the paint would probably be enough, or very, very close. I decided to do this, it was just easier. But basically, see how these bolts sit up? Here's the top hat we took off. So I took it off. It's just these 4 bolts. The spring all stays together. You don't have to worry about it shooting anywhere. It's just a camber plate, basically. You could even have this remade, like to be the right everything to go inside of there. If this bolt hole was a little bit farther out, then it would fit. All right, so we used a couple of templates, right? And I took this off, put this on, and we just made these bolts the same. And I also cut this to fit the shape that's up inside of where that plate mounts to, because it's an odd shape, obviously you can tell. This plate will work perfectly fine in this car with 2 bolts instead of 3. Obviously it originally came with 2 bolts instead of 3. It's a very light vehicle. But what we're gonna do now is we're gonna swap this top plate onto the other strut, so we can have this ear on the other side. So basically left on right, right on left, and that's the only reason, no big deal. And that's it. So I'm gonna get to it real quick. All right guys, so small change of plans for this. There's so many things you can do to make this work. It's just unreal. You could make new top hats. You could make a nice spacer for the top hat, because these bolts are plenty long enough for like a 1/4 inch spacer that would accommodate that hole, so that you could just mount it right in there. I think the height is a big deal for me, but it is adjustable, so you could work that out. What I decided to do was buy some new bolts. They're stainless, just tapered. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna line all these up where I want them, and I'm gonna take them back out, and then I'm just gonna countersink this right where I want the bolts to go. And there should be 4 locations. I don't know if I'll countersink all 4 or just the 2 that I'm gonna use for now. But it would be nice to have a milling machine and just whiz that out with that taper all the way down, so that you could slide them wherever you needed them. Obviously I don't have a milling machine. Big boy tools, right? So I'm just gonna use a countersink. I have a couple of nice countersinks for my drill, and I'm just gonna pop them in there, and then we're gonna put this one on and check the height, and then we'll be able to do the other side. So stick with us. That's it, folks. Now I'm gonna cut this tab to match the old tab, or as close as I could possibly get, so we can put that C-clip in there. It may not work out, but it's a pretty big hole, but it's the bracket looks like it's the same size, so let's see if we can template that out and get it cut. All right, some things to know. I cut this out, I measured it, I put it in, it does fit perfectly, but the hose is not long enough. This is up a little bit too high, so still won't work. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do about that, but obviously we don't want this brake hose, you know, banging or rubbing on something and banging a hole in it. So just so you guys know, don't waste your time with that. I just did it with a cutoff wheel real quick, and it worked perfect, but the problem is it's up too high, so you'd have to like cut it off and weld it down lower, and I'm not all about welding on shock. So I got this back together. We're gonna go ahead and throw these nuts on, torque them down, and then throw the wheel back on and see what it looks like. Gonna be a shoulder camera, man.
Yeah. You can't even tell.
You can't tell that this side's lower?
I mean, I don't know if you can tell on camera.
So
It's
the other
so
side,
crazy.
the other side we measured at the beginning was 3.1. This is now, it was 3 and I don't remember, you have to go back and watch. But it was right at 3 inches, and now it's at 1.25 inches. And I wanted it at 1.5 inches so I could raise it up a little bit, but I think it looks good at 1.25 inches. We'll just have to drive it and see if it rubs. That spring is really close to the tire. It's closer than it was with the stock suspension. I think because the stock suspension, the spring perch, the part that the spring sat in, was real high, and it was sat above the tire, so it could swing almost all the way into the strut if it wanted to. This one, the spring is right up next to the spring, so we're at a...
And don't forget to tighten up your shit on the inside of the truck.
22.5 inches. So I guess we'll start working on the other side, and you guys can see it when we are done. A little before gap. It's so strange how it's pushed forward. You see that? So close to the front bumper. I wonder if there isn't something we can do about that with that lower control arm. A little after. Still quite a bit closer to the front than the back. I don't know that it's a problem. Merry Christmas, guys. See you next week. We're gonna take a couple of weeks and knock out the 4-link on the back. So till then, Merry Christmas.